Cool. Well, thanks guys for having me. Super excited to be here. My name is Josh Anness. I am a senior FinOps engineer at 8451. And today I'm going to walk you through our FinOps journey, especially as it relates to data cloud platforms. So the key idea for us was that visibility alone wasn't enough. We needed the teams who were creating the spend to understand it, to own it, and to act on it. So I'm going to walk you through our journey. I'm going to show you data pipelines, tools, dashboards, efficiency techniques, a whole bunch of stuff. So I'm hoping you come out of here with at least one idea you can take back to your own organizations. A little more about me. I am the tech lead on a small team called Tech Optimization. I'll show my team here in a second. A lot of my day-to-day is writing code, creating data assets, tools, and helping the business become more efficient in terms of their technology use and with their time. I'm a certified FinOps practitioner and engineer, and I've been doing FinOps related work for around 4 years now. Here's my team, and our mission at 8451 is to give clear visibility into our technology investments and help the business get more value out of every dollar. So we work cross-functionally amongst many different groups here. So in a single day, we could be presenting to leadership and finance in the morning, and then by afternoon, we could be tuning code with our data science and engineering teams. So to support our mission at 8451, we have to wear many different hats. A little more about the company. So you may have saw the name and thought it was a bit of a strange one. 8451 is actually the longitude of Cincinnati, Ohio, which is our headquarters. And we are owned by Kroger. We are the data science and retail arm of Kroger. So maybe you shop at Kroger or one of the stores. On the slide here, what we do is we take the transaction data from these stores, which is over 62 million households, and we turn this into personalized insights that help drive targeted actions. So think personalized coupons, product recommendations in the stores, pricing decisions, everything like that. And to do that, we have to run a very large data platform. So that's why FinOps for data platforms became so important for us. So as a company, we take a personalization approach. We take customer data to generate personalized insights, and that helps drive targeted actions. When we approached our FinOps practice, we wanted to do something very similar. How do we take this cost and usage data? How do we turn this into personalized insights for the different personas across our company? And how can that help drive cost to value questions and actions? But here were some of the challenges for us. Data cloud platforms are hard to manage. Data cloud spend is different than traditional cloud infrastructure spend. With traditional cloud infrastructure, you have provisioned resources that have a little clearer ownership, and I think standard cloud cost reports can get you a bit farther. But with data clouds, you have many distributed workload decisions. You have many different resource types. And the billing and pricing for these are activity-based. These resources are elastic. And in a lot of cases, they're shared, which obscures ownership. And one of the biggest factors is just the scale. So an engineer now can spin up a cluster that would have taken months in planning and millions in capital just a decade ago. And when we get the bill, we often lack the granularity into that spend. And was the spend efficient, and did it drive proper value? More specifically to what we were facing, so we were processing millions, if not billions of records every single day. And that's petabytes of storage across many different resource types, thousands of jobs, clusters, warehouses, pipelines, across differing workloads, batch, streaming, machine learning. And the FinOps reality of this is millions in cloud and data platform spend with limited visibility into it. So we have hundreds of engineers and data scientists working in our data platforms, making their own resource and investment decisions every single day. No central FinOps team can stay ahead of this. So our goal was to push ownership down to the teams. And here's how we did it. So this is a blueprint we created. I'm going to be walking through this blueprint the rest of the time. And underneath this was our operating model. So of course we started a centralized FinOps team doing a lot of this work. And then we created this shared visibility model where we had shared insights for the different personas across our company. And this helped drive our ultimate goal of distributed ownership of FinOps. We wanted everyone in the company, whether you were a team or a user with cloud spend, to be able to answer the question, are we getting the right value for what we're spending? So first, it starts with business context. Cloud bills are organized by services, sub-accounts, resources. Your business isn't organized that way. So the first question you have to ask is, how does the business see itself? We built this hierarchy or taxonomy. You go from business unit down to cost center, which we call profit stream, down to business domain, and down to product. And each of these answers something a little differently. At the business unit and cost center level, that answers who pays for this, so think in a chargeback system. At the business domain level, that answers who owns this spend, who owns these cloud resources. And then at the product level, which is probably the most important for us, is what value is this spend driving? So this became the backbone for attribution and insights for our FinOps spend. And we also created this dashboard. So this dashboard helps us manage the evolving business hierarchy, because with inside businesses, you have reorgs, you have products going in, coming out, and you have to keep up to date with it. So for accurate allocation, we use this dashboard to be able to manage that evolving business. I won't spend too much time here, but how you do that, how do you attach this to cloud resources, that's tagging. You hear all about tagging. We used a mix of policy-based enforcement, code-based tagging, and manual support where needed. And we wanted visible ownership down to the resource and workload level. And that is really important for data clouds because you often lack that granularity. So here I'm showing how we drove compliance. And I think this is the first real proof point of this distributed ownership and personalization model we were after. So we went from 0% to 91% tagging compliance in a little under a year. And we didn't just do it by centralized enforcement. We created this tagging compliance dashboard here that shows tagging compliance by business unit, down to team, down to the underlying resources. And we shared this with our business unit leaders. We showed them the value of high tagging compliance. With high tagging compliance, you had direct line of sight into what your teams were working on, where your technology investments were going, and through this, they could manage their business more effectively. So that helps drive prioritization. Another outcome from this dashboard was it created a little bit of healthy competition because no business unit or no team wanted to be behind the others. And a FinOps learning we took from this was we didn't want the FinOps practice, the FinOps team, to be police or governance in our organization. We wanted to show the value of what was possible. We wanted to be an enablement team. So we took that with us the rest of our journey. So we have the business context. Now we can build our data foundation. And this is probably the most important step here. So here's our end-to-end data model. And we haven't built this perfectly. This is very iterative, a lot of changing parts here. But at a high level, and I'll zoom into each layer here, we start with source and raw data. We normalize it and enrich it. We apply FinOps-specific allocation logic, and then out comes decision-ready data sets that powers everything we do. So tooling, reporting, efficiency, telemetry, AI, everything depends on this data model. So the first two layers here, I start at the source layer. We pull in all Azure cost and telemetry, all the Databricks system tables. We pull in Snowflake cost and telemetry. ServiceNow, that keeps our SaaS or software spend. And then this 8451 bucket, think of the tagging data I just went through, our business hierarchy data, and we also bring in our fiscal calendar. Next, we normalize it and enrich it. And at this stage, this is making these different sources speak the same language. And that's exactly where focus comes in. So we align to focus where we can. We probably have a focus light like data set, but focus is great for that. We extract tags that matter to us, and then we translate raw IDs into readable names. One other thing that we do that might be custom is we make sure we align all the time dimensions to our fiscal calendar, so it can enable real chargeback and planning inside our business. So really at these two stages, we're turning these raw exports into something we can trust and build upon later. Here I'm getting into FinOps specific logic and allocation logic, and this is where Data Cloud FinOps really differs from standard reporting. So with data clouds, you have split billing planes, and in a lot of cases, you have shared resources. And these shared resources, you need to turn this shared cost into allocated owned cost across your business. And here's a real example of this for us. So we have thousands and thousands of clusters in Databricks running each day, and they're pulling from these shared Databricks pools. These shared Databricks pools are, think of it like shared VMs set up in these pools that these clusters can go out and take from and pull from. So from a technical standpoint, this works great for us. But when we get the bill from Azure at the end of the day, all of that shared infrastructure pool cost lands on those pools and isn't actually allocated to the teams and resources that use them. So our Databricks platform team who stood up the pool, if we were to charge back today with no allocation cost or allocation logic, they would get a giant bill because they helped us set up the pools, even though they didn't drive that usage. So I have two allocation approaches here. I have this basic allocation approach. I'm happy to talk through that approach a little more after the talk, but it's not that great for a number of reasons. It's probably better than nothing. And then I have this improved allocation approach. And in this improved allocation approach, we're actually going into Databricks inside their system tables, which gives us great telemetry into what's actually going on underneath the hood. And we can see by cluster the individual nodes inside the cluster by minute and actually see the pools that they're pulling from. So with all that data, we can allocate this shared pool infrastructure spend back to the clusters, back to the teams that actually used them with a lot of confidence. And here's what this actually looks like in practice. So think of these tables as the bills we get from our cloud providers, our data platforms. This top table here, the before, you can see my shared pool spend by virtual machine, disk, networking, and right now you can see it's on my Databricks team, my Databricks platform team who helped stand up these pools. So if we were to charge back today, that team and that business unit would not be happy because they didn't actually drive that usage. And then you'll also see this TCO cost component column. I've just named it that for this example. And you may have heard of TCO or total cost of ownership. So that's the full cost required to run and operate a platform. And for Databricks, you have two sides of your TCO. You have the licensing cost, which is what we pay Databricks to be able to use their platform. And then you have the infrastructure side. So that's those resources you see here, virtual machines, disk, networking, all the underlying cloud resources used to run the platform. So those two sides make up our TCO, and we want that column to say Databricks instead of Azure, so we get our full TCO spend. And then this after table is after we apply that allocation logic. The $120 from the top table and shared pool infrastructure spend has now been allocated to the teams who actually used it. And then you can also see the TCO cost component column says Databricks. So we can get a full TCO of Databricks, which is really useful for us. Here I'm showing the different tables at the different layers and steps in our data pipeline. We follow a medallion architecture, so it's great for us. We have our bronze, which is our raw layer, our silver, which is our curated layer, and then our gold is our decision ready layer. And you'll see a number of gold tables here. So we can have all-in cloud cost, our all-in cost, we can have cloud plus software and SaaS. Think of AI too, and many others. Budgets and forecasts, anomaly detection, workload efficiency, unit economics. There's so many different things we can do here with a strong data foundation. And these gold tables are feeding our reporting, our analytics I have it feeding AI, so with Claude Code, I have an MCP connected to this data where I can chat with it. I can tell it to do specific analysis on different things. I can create dashboards. I can create HTML pages. I think the data foundation here is probably the biggest thing for us in being able to serve insights to act on FinOps. So we have our data foundation. How do we turn this data into insights for our teams and users to use? And the goal here is to get our different personas from question to action the fastest. And I have different persona questions here. And with our data, we can answer each of these questions. I think we could have gone out and purchased or got a very powerful tool. There's many out there that would have answered these questions and would have helped us do a whole lot of different things in FinOps. But one of our goals was to serve insights to people in the business in an easy way that they didn't feel intimidated by. So that's why you see Power BI for this simple reporting and easy usability layer. And then we built a Python web app for some more advanced interactions. So I'm going to show you some different views and screenshots from both of these. First, this is our kind of flagship self-service Power BI report. And it's just a simple report, but it's very powerful because it has a whole lot of data we can drill into. So we can filter by any business or platform tag. We can drill down from business unit down to the teams, down to the underlying resources and workloads inside those teams. We can change the dimension orders. So you see the tags on there. We can view and slice and dice this data in different ways. Every persona could come in here and find what mattered to them. And this became the #1 most used Power BI report in our company, and around 50% of the company has actually used it. And this was an important metric for us because it showed that FinOps was no longer dependent on us as a centralized team. The people creating the spend now had access to it and could feel confident in controlling it. And the real unlock here was cost of value ownership. So the people creating the spend could now ask the question, does this cost make sense for the value we are getting out of it? For example, if I'm a team or a user and I have a job or a cluster that's spending $10,000 a day, I could probably answer whether that job or cluster is giving $10,000 a day of value or not. Those are the questions we wanted people asking. And as a FinOps team, we lack the business context to be able to answer that question. So if it is valuable, then great, that's exactly what we want, right? But if it isn't valuable, we could optimize it, we could help them optimize it, they could optimize it, or in a lot of cases, they would just shut it down. And this was this hidden optimization effect we saw systemically across the company. With the right insights and data served to our teams, they were now making better investment and resource decisions inside cloud. Here I'm showing 2 different persona views in action. So the leadership gets a business unit roll-up view where you can see by your team how much you're spending. And then on the engineering side, I am showing daily spend by resource type down to resource, and I can see it by day. So each person could come in here, filter to the data that mattered to them, and then they would share it with their teams and actually act on it. Here's a further breakdown of TCO, which was one of our biggest capability unlocks because we can now see exactly how much we were spending in our different data platforms. So the middle chart here is showing Databricks spend by resource type. So this helped us understand where we could optimize, where we should focus our optimization efforts in these different resource types. The top right here is showing our Databricks spend by business unit. So this helped our Databricks platform team be able to know which business units to partner with. And then on the bottom right, I am showing our Databricks spend by the different categories in the TCO stack. So I can see my virtual machine spend. If that was spiking, I could go out and take optimization efforts to help bring that down. And it really helped us and our leaders ask a better question, and that was, Are we getting the right business value out of these data platforms for what we're spending in them? We asked that question for each of the different data platforms we were using. Here I'm showing a similar breakdown, and the goal of this is just showing how easy this can be. And this, with using the Databricks system tables and around 100 lines of SQL, you can build a view with this type of granularity for your teams or for yourself. And Databricks just came out with, it's a repo out there that actually breaks these tables down into focus format. So you could just pull that code, create the data set, and then serve a Power BI report like this, where particularly if you're an engineer here, I can see down to the hour my resource type spend, down to the underlying resources, how much I'm spending in the platform. So you can see jobs, interactive clusters. With serverless, I could come in here and filter to my name and see how much I'm actually spending individually on serverless. So again, this type of granularity really helps drive the cost to value questions and actions we were pushing for in FinOps. Which gets us into optimization. So we have the data, we have the insights. How do we drive optimization? So we created this repeatable optimization motion, and we start with finding high cost or inefficient spend. And then our next step here is sizing it, and this is probably the most important step. We'll create a figure based on savings potential or wasted spend in this opportunity, and that helps us prioritize it and just kind of see, hey, what's the size of the prize for this? Then we report it to our teams, and we create a playbook to actually act on it. We measure the savings, and we scale it. So here's a real example of this. On the bottom chart here, this is spot instance adoption. So first, we found that we could be saving more money with spot instances. And then we sized it. So on the chart here, you'll see unrealized savings. That figure here is basically saying, hey, if this workload was running on spot, this is how much we could have saved. And then we reported this across our business. Our teams started taking action on that. They started driving spot instance adoption. And we would then recognize the teams for driving that and realizing these savings. And whenever we recognize these teams or individual users, we always got the question back to us, this is great, how do we save even more money within our teams? I'm gonna dig into some of the different optimization categories of the TCO stack. First, on the commercial and compute side. So you hear about rate commitments, reserved instances, savings plans all the time in FinOps, and they're extremely important. With the data foundation and strong data and the technical strategy with where your organization's going, you can reserve resources and make these commitments and save real money when spend actually happens. Similarly, with usage and compute, what I'm saying here is how do we save or how do we reduce waste before spend happens? So I have spot instances, right sizing, budget policies. All of these are also extremely important. On the chart here, I am showing our Databricks job usage measured by their DBU unit. That's just how they meter licensing. And what this chart is showing is over time, the bars are going up. So our Databricks job usage is increasing over time. And then this line here is job cost per DBU. So this unit economic gave us a helpful measure for how effectively are we driving optimization and these cost savings initiative across the company. So we could measure this. We could set KPIs and goals for what we wanted this to get to. And it really helped us be able to understand, hey, are these things actually working? Here I'm digging into workload and job optimization. So in this case, we're focusing on the highest cost and least efficient jobs. So we've combined cost and telemetry data, so efficiency telemetry, and with that, we can be able to derive savings potential figures, potential savings, recommendations, so think right-sizing recommendations. With the data, we can do a whole lot of different things. We've created this dashboard here, and what this dashboard is showing is if I'm a team or I'm a user, I can put in my job, and I can see by run how much the job cost, Was it effective? How long did it take to actually run? And then we have some kind of advanced efficiency metrics that I'm happy to talk through after the talk. This isn't your average CPU and memory over a cluster run. We actually look at each individual node by the minute level in each cluster, and we weight it over the run. So that CPU and memory is weighted, and then we also have an effective worker count or over-provisioned worker count. Again, that helps with right sizing. So hopefully our teams can put their job in here, understand the health of their job, look at these recommendations, and then go out and take them. And in this case, in the chart on the top, hopefully see their duration and job cost go down. I think you see the Pareto principle a lot in cloud where, in our case, 20% of our Databricks jobs made up 80% of our Databricks job spend. So from this, we created this optimization community of practice where we sat down with the teams who own these jobs, and we worked with tuning these jobs and different optimization techniques you actually see on the screen. This resulted in around $2 million in savings. And an even bigger impact from this is we took these learnings and we created best practices from them, and then we presented it across the organization. I have this pyramid here that's grouped by effort level, so you have some quick wins, especially on the cost side, spot instances using Delta. I have some strategic optimizations like right sizing and clustering and partitioning, and then some deep optimization work, so resolving data skew and redesigning shuffle-heavy workloads. Happy to talk through any of those more in depth after the talk. Each of these things matter, and they're used at different stages in terms of optimization. And this really worked well for us because we got into the weeds and we understood this stuff. We tried to understand it, and we taught our teams how to apply it. And even more importantly is they would take these optimizations, they would apply it to their other jobs, but they would also shift left and apply it early on in their development process. So they didn't see their job on some dashboard or getting a call from us that, hey, your job is high costing and it's inefficient. No, they were applying these early on in the process, so they didn't hear from us. And that shift was really important. So here I'm showing the other part of the data platform stack, particularly on the storage side. And as a big data company, storage was an important initiative for us. We created this dashboard that uses blob inventory from Azure, where we can see down to the folder and file level the size of the folders and files. We can see last access time. We can see cost. We have the different access tiers here, redundancy. We had a whole bunch of telemetry and granularity into our storage, because when you get the bill, you see your bucket or your storage account cost. You don't have the granularity into what's actually driving that. So this really helped with that, and there was different levers we could push and pull here. We could delete stale data, we could lifecycle and tier the data, we could change the redundancy. On the code side, I have some important ones here, like partitioning, vacuuming, all of these matter. And to date, we've removed probably well over 6,000 terabytes of data and stale data, and that's resulted in over $2 million in annualized cost savings for us. Here I'm trying to show our personalization approach in action. And when we found a cost savings opportunity, we didn't want to just throw it over the wall and tell the team, hey, you could be saving more money by doing this. We wanted to go out and help them. And in this email, we're showing the opportunity, we're showing the savings amount, and in this case, we're going a step further where we're actually opening a PR to actually deploy this change. So all they have to do is review the code, merge the PR, run the code, and then they're saving the money. And when they save the money, we want to recognize them for it. So meeting teams where they're at and helping drive some of the harder things here, makes these cost savings opportunities just no-brainers. I'm going to briefly talk through some of the smaller but really important ways we drove adoption and built an operating rhythm. So we created a learning pathway for our technical users and our business leaders, and we wanted them to understand cloud cost and the value of FinOps. So upskilling our business in that way was really important for us. We also ran these weekly office hours that we called FinOps Fridays. These were kind of fun sessions where we were presenting tools, we were showing different cost savings opportunities to the business, but some of our best sessions were when teams and users came and they presented their own optimizations. So in a lot of cases, they would come and they would say, hey, this is how much we were losing, or this is how much spend we were wasting. Here's how we optimized it, and then here's how much we saved. And we wanted to reward them for it. So we really tried to build a cost savings kind of culture in our company. We also ran quarterly business leader reviews. This is where we met with business unit leaders across the business, showed them kind of the health of their FinOps organization inside their business units. We presented different cost savings opportunities to them. So we would tell them, hey, in this opportunity, you could be saving $1 million. In this opportunity, you could be saving $10,000. So that just helped them kind of prioritize different FinOps initiatives inside their business. I've kind of hit on this throughout, but making it fun and making FinOps fun and gamifying it, in this case, gamifying the savings, was really important for us. So we wanted to recognize whether it was a team or individual win, anywhere that you saved money inside the business, you are getting recognized for it. We also threw team lunches, we threw pizza parties, we even made our own FinOps merch that we would give out to the company and people that was actually very effective and popular. We also have this dashboard here that you'll see, and it's just a public savings dashboard where if you went out and you optimized something and you saved money in cloud, you would show up on this dashboard. So making this fun, giving public wins, recognizing these teams and users to their business unit leaders really helped drive cost savings all throughout the business. So results, outcomes, takeaways, what's next for us too. Some of the outcomes. On the insight side, we had distributed ownership, self-service FinOps, and clear visibility across our different teams into spend. On the savings side, annualized savings represented 34% of our annual cloud spend, so that materially affected our bottom line in the business. On the predictability side, our forecast variance was under 5%, so we could really plan with confidence. And then on the business value side, we had clear connection between our product cost and product value. The users and leaders inside our business had confidence in managing their tech investments in cloud and within software and SaaS. And here's where we're going. So we want to bring in more cost types, AI, we're already bringing in software, hardware, and eventually labor and people. I'll talk about that a little more why in a second. And we also want to prepare for the AI spend wave that's already hitting us. So we're applying a lot of the same principles and showing back this spend and making sure there's proper guardrails and governance. So applying the same things that we did with cloud to AI now. We want to shift left with an agentic layer. So we have the strong data foundation and we're building that data foundation. And I think the future of FinOps is an agentic one where we can have AI and agents working on top of our data, creating these insights, creating these dashboards, going out and taking cost savings initiatives. All of that is where we're going inside our organization. And then I have this P&L dashboard / investment platform. So what is that? I talked a little bit about bringing in more cost types. If we can get all of our costs inside the business down to the product level, the next step for us is to actually bring in the product value, the business value. In a lot of cases, that may be revenue or a share of revenue. So we can have the full equation here. And for us, that goes from FinOps, not just caring about the cloud infrastructure and spend side of managing the business, but we're really getting into business management and a lot of what finance already does, but we're taking a really data-driven approach here. And the future of this too is having agents and AI work on this data foundation where we have both the cost, we have all the value, and bringing in that business context. We're going into complete business management and how we can function and more efficiently serve the business in the different areas where we're investing. I want to thank my team. I'm extremely blessed to work on such an amazing team. I have an amazing manager, and I work for an amazing organization. And I'm the one telling this story, but we have a unique culture at 8451 that really helps drive innovation and really helped drive all these FinOps initiatives that we were doing. I also want to thank the FinOps Foundation. Thank you for having me. I'm very blessed to be able to give this presentation. We use the FinOps Foundation and their frameworks heavily all throughout our journey. And the data cloud platform stuff they have on the site within these working groups, those are great too, especially for understanding how you can pull out different data, different queries you can run for all the different data platforms, no matter what you're in. So thanks for joining me today. Happy to take questions, and yeah, thanks for having me.
Question right up in the front. All right, have you seen this before? It's soft, it won't hurt. That was pretty good.
Hey, Josh. Great presentation. And I'm Deji from Thermo Fisher Scientific. My question is around the tag and compliance. You did go from 0% to 91% in 1 year. Yeah. First question, was that on existing resources or new intakes? If it was on existing resources, how did you do that? And then the second question is, you open PRs of optimization recommendations on behalf of teams, correct? And then they review it and, okay, that's really good, but how sustainable is that for your team to do that on behalf of the application owners?
Yeah, so your first question here on tagging compliance, all of these resources existed, and we used a mix of, especially in these data clouds at the time when we drove compliance back in, it was 2024, late 2023, we had to apply it directly to the resource. So there was a lot of manual effort there. You have budget policies now and different things in these different data platforms that really help. On the cloud side too, we used tagging at like the resource group or subscription level, so that helped. But in a lot of cases, this was us just showing the data to the different teams and them being able to see very directly inside their teams. They could see each resource and what the tags were and what the tags should be. So really helping them understand that inside the business. Hey, what are my wrong tags or incorrect tags, and what should they be? And then on your question about optimization and driving that, so the infrastructure we have set up, we can see each team and each repo, and we have that connected to the cost. So we have that data connected, and we can actually go into these repos, and we use Terraform Cloud for our infrastructure as code. And we're just going in there, we're creating a PR that adds a bootstrap. In this case, it was related to storage tiering. We're telling them what it does, what's the risk, how to change the different tiering rules if they want, and that's how they're making that decision. Does that answer your question?
Yes, thank you.
So I liked your data showing potential savings. Did you calculate new data sets for that? How did you track that?
Yeah.
Calculate and track it.
Yeah, that's a good question. And how we track it may be a little different than how different organizations track it. So we have realized cost savings. So through RIs or spot instances, we can kind of calculate, hey, this is how much we actually saved by running it with these. And then in a lot of cases, how we're calculating waste or optimization. If I have a job that is spending $100 a day and a user team tunes it to $20 a day, we'll take that difference and we'll annualize it, and that's how we'll add up the cost savings.
But you are generating new data sets to track those savings?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes.
Okay. And just one more question, tiny one. So I noticed in your business hierarchy, I like that idea. There's a business domain or team.
Yeah.
There seems to be the implication that you have flat teams, right? But could your teams be nested? Like, I imagine the FinOps team is a small team and part of a larger team.
Yeah, that's a real problem we're actually facing right now.
Okay, so we're not alone.
Yeah, different team hierarchies and different business units see their organizations in different ways. We're moving towards a product-based tagging approach now, where you have a product ID, you have a product, think of it like a GUID, and then we're deriving the hierarchy up from that. So that's how we're solving that.
Okay, thank you. Get it to back.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you for your presentation. I was very curious about the chargeback portion where you were explaining how you dealt with some of those shared services and how tagging is what you leverage to accomplish that. Do you run into situations where you have resources that are shared even at the individual resource level? So for example, some of those networking resources that maybe tagging is not something you could leverage. How are you dealing with those situations where maybe more than one team is using, I don't know, using AWS as an example, a VPC or any like logging and monitoring resources? How do you deal with chargeback for those specific?
Yeah, that's a really good question. And something we've been very intentional about to avoid cases like that is we'll actually tell teams and users to split up the resources so we don't run into that. There's a few cases where things are shared, and in those cases, we're giving the teams more budget to kind of eat the cost for the extra spend that we're actually allocating on our side. So that's a real issue, and the allocation approach I showed, you could use just similar methodology to be able to allocate those costs back, but the scenario you addressed is something we ran into early on, and we just told them, hey, it's better for us to just split this up. It's better for your business to split it up, so we don't have to deal with that.
Thank you.
One final very quick question, and then you can find Josh after the session at FinOps.
So you had a dashboard where you showed optimization recommendation. So how do you come up with like which resources would be candidate for recommendation? What are the behind the scene consideration that, okay, this resource is candidate for optimization, this is not? How do you determine that?
So you're asking how did we know where to optimize?
Yes.
Okay, yeah, so we would look at different cost metrics. So say Databricks jobs is a really easy one for us, where that's probably a majority of our spend in cloud. We would run and write code that would look at each individual job and the clusters inside the job. We would aggregate it up that way to be able to derive some sort of wasted spend metric based on their CPU and memory utilization. And that's how we drove all kind of optimization inside the business is, can we create a wasted spend metric? Can we create a potential savings metric to be able to weight and then also share with teams? So we have a dashboard we didn't show, but by team, you could see every job in the organization and basically the health of that job, so how effective it is. And it's sorted by unrealized savings or savings potential. So you don't want to be on the top of that list kind of thing. So that's one thing that we did.
Josh, thank you very much. Another round of applause.
Hey everyone, producer Andrew here. Thanks for watching. Check out the rest of our channel for more FinOps content. Like, subscribe, and leave questions and comments for our speakers. We appreciate your support.